from their zombie-like slumber to see the truth. For the truth will make us free. You are listening to Waking Up the Masses Radio.
And welcome to Waking Up the Masses Radio. I'm your host, Bob Brutus. This would be, my friends, our inaugural broadcast. WakingUpTheMasses.com. WakingUpTheMasses.com. Many ways to listen, but only one of me. You can go to our site, WakingUpTheMasses.com. We got the radio stream there. You can listen on any of your media players. Also, we have a Roku channel. So if you have a Roku, hey, you can sit down in front of your TV and listen to us, if that makes any sense. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Bob Brutus. For our inaugural broadcast, I guess you would say, we are going to be getting into the Illuminati. Everyone always wants to know, you hear everybody constantly. They're always saying, well, it's the Illuminati. Well, this person is part of the Illuminati. Well, they're an Illuminati agent. There's so much ignorance, my friends, so much ignorance in the world, and a lot. I always hear people say, well, man, people are waking up. Well, what the hell are they waking up to? See, that's the thing. What are these individuals waking up to? And whose truth are they waking up to? There's a good question for you. Exactly whose truth are these individuals waking up to? We have a plethora. Out there of so-called truthers. So-called individuals that, they're doing the research. They're finding out all kind of stuff. And the research is basically figuratively swapping spit with other individuals on the internet. The research comes from websites. The research comes from word of mouth. This is a problem, my friends. I am formerly of, the site's still up, the stream's still there, so I'm formerly of Crazy Wolf Radio. And I quit broadcasting a couple of weeks ago. I was just completely and totally irritated. Not fed up, not disheartened, but irritated. I look across the internet, and I see in the truther community, I see disinformation. Let me tell you something, my friends. Let's go back in history a little bit to Adolf Hitler. Everybody always says, they talk about how he persecuted the Jews. Well, let's talk about the origins of this and how it was disinformation. How it was disinformation that brought about Hitler's, what he did. Hitler thought that, we got Grand Orient. We're going to talk about this a lot this morning here on WakingUpTheMasses.com, Waking Up the Masses Radio. There was a book that was released, a publication called The Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. And it was made, these were nothing more, let me tell you guys, these were nothing more than writings from the Priory of Zion, from Mizraim Freemasonry. Nothing but their writings. But it was made to be a Jewish conspiracy. In Adolf Hitler's mind, what you call Grand Orient Freemasonry, yes, guys, there are more than one kind of masonry out there. In Hitler's eyes, Grand Orient Freemasonry was a Jewish conspiracy. The Jewish conspiracy. I mean, you don't realize that there were almost 1 million Freemasons that were also sent to the camps. Wait. I just stepped over some truther toes there. There was no Holocaust. Oh, that was just a big hoax. Let me tell you what you truther guys are. You know, we're going to talk about the Illuminati today. I figured this was the best way to start off because so many people, so much disinformation. But let me tell you what you truthers are. With your whole get the Zionist, with your whole it's the Freemasons. Yes, there are some Freemasons involved, but with your whole get the Freemasons, it is nothing more. It is nothing more than the fervor that was going on in Nazi Germany. I see some of you guys, death to these guys, you know, let's get them. They should hang. You know, one thing, I was listening to Bill Cooper, the late Bill Cooper, man, listening to one of his broadcasts. And he said, once you start classifying someone as evil, then sort of all bets are off. You've isolated yourself from that person. Am I going to talk to you? Like, oh, he's evil. Am I going to talk to you? Can I engage in conversation? These are human beings. But that's what, seriously, guys, you guys in the whole truther thing, that's what you're doing. Nothing more than what was going on in Nazi Germany. Now, speaking of Bill Cooper, if we go like him, if we actually dig for the truth, use our time to talk about the truth. So, as I say, I sort of took a 2-week sit back. Saw what, you know, observed, listened to a lot of shows, watched a lot of broadcasts, looked at the articles they're putting out there. Even this jackass, what's his name, Mancow, Henry Mancow, every other article is hate Jew. Hate the Jew. Well, it's a Jewish conspiracy, the Jewish Illuminati. We're going to talk about that today, guys. You know, our time, my friends, is one of great changes. And it is one of even greater conspiracies. These changes and conspiracies, you know, they're enacted under the watchful eye of these Illuminists, these hidden Illuminists. That's what you got to understand. These guys like to keep their situation hidden, shall we say. Under these hidden Illuminists, and their goal is not a Lucifer worshiping New World Order. It is a humanist communist New World Order. With you being the perfect slave. With you being the perfect slave and them being your perfect master. Because they believe in the perfection. You find a lot of Rosicrucian ideas in here. The perfection of this, the perfection of that. So forth and so on. Controlling you. Being your gods. From the womb to the tomb. All aspects of your life. Now, the Illuminati, these hidden Illuminists, how can you identify them in this day and time? Basically by actions. And you cannot identify them, but you can identify the plan in play. All aspects of your life, if you look at it, let's look at this country, guys, the United States of America. Did I say United States? The United States of America. Where all aspects of your life are controlled, basically. From the womb to the tomb. With such education things like Common Core, the healthcare bill, Social Security for that matter. All these different programs slowly, progressively bringing you into their kind of new world order. Their kind of utopia. As I said, that humanist, communist utopia of a new world order. And if you read about, you read Albert Pike's writing, Albert Pike talks about the individuals. He talks about the individuals that get to hang out in this new world order. And it's not going to be the revolutionaries. See, they're going to use them. See, that is their big deal. Not the revolutionaries are not the ones that will come forth and change the country. They will change it, all right, but as he said, we will release the nihilist and the atheist. This was already going on. Giuseppe Manzini and Albert Pike. Giuseppe Manzini starting his young societies, his lower Masonic rabble-rousers, shall we say, these young societies. Manzini had already been doing this. This was not simply a plan that was going to be enacted in the future. This is what they were doing then. This is what's going on now. So many of these individuals, man, whether it be Occupy Wall Street or the Tea Party, they have no idea and they have no realization. No idea and no realization exactly whose plan they are enacting, man. These individuals have learned to conceal themselves. They have learned to conceal themselves. You can just look at some Masonic writers, man. A few different Masonic writers. Let me grab a drink of water here. Such as Manly P. Hall. Manly P. Hall. He said it is for the adepts. And, of course, an adept is defined in the dictionary as one who is an expert. It is for the adepts to understand the meaning of symbols. There was another a book called The Spirit of Freemasonry, written by Foster Bailey. And he says, a symbol veils or hides a secret, and that which veils certain mysterious forces. These energies, when released, can have a potent effect. Another writer by the name of Max Toth, he said the knowledge of the ancient mysteries was never revealed to the layman except through the media of symbols. Symbolism fulfilled both the need to conceal sacred truths from the uninitiated and to offer a language for those qualified to understand it. And of course, the creator of the Bavarian Illuminati. Now, the Bavarian Illuminati was not, Weissaup's Illuminati was not the first group. These were not the first Illuminists. We're going to talk about who these guys were. And give you, let's say, a little example. Yeah, a few different groups going back. And then to show you, today we're going to show you how these individuals work, what their big idea is. You know, pulled away from the crazy, nonsensical truther media that you have out there. Pulled away from the jackasses that they will just repeat everything that the person next to them on the internet said. Hey, it's the Jews. Oh, God, it's the Jews. You know, next thing you know, you got a bunch of sheep. Bah! You know, hey, that's why we are here to wake up the masses. But it's concealment. Let it never appear in its own name, but always covered by another name and another occupation. Nothing can bring this about, this new world order, but hidden societies. Hidden schools of wisdom are the means which will one day free men from their bonds of religion. Princes and nations shall vanish from the earth. Oh, it's the bankers. Oh, it's the bankers. Oh, it's the bankers. I see how you sheeple are led down this path, man. I watch every day. You're nothing more than the sheep of Nazi Germany. You people, individuals that call yourself truthers. Now, let me say there are some out there that are in the group and they do some good research. I'm not knocking all of them, but I basically see the big mesh. They are in. Yes, you are in a matrix, my friend, because I'm free from the matrix. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're part of that matrix. You're a part of that matrix. So today, we will talk about these hidden Illuminists. A little bit of their history, going back before Weishaupt. Groups that declared themselves the Illuminati. Where did they get the idea? Going back to ancient Egypt and ancient Babylon. Understanding from their symbolism what you see. And what you see is not the idea of Lucifer worship or Satan worship. That was for, shall we say, as Mr. Manly P. Hall said, it is for the adepts to understand the meaning of symbols. And what Max Toth said, symbolism fulfilled both the need to conceal sacred truths from the initiated and to offer language for those qualified to understand it. So that's what you got to do, guys. You have to, it's a nasty way to have to do, really, because learning all their stuff. But you truly, if you want to understand what their big idea is, you have to study their writings. You have to go back into the books, and you have to understand their symbolism. So today, a little bit of history of the Illuminati, show you their methods, talk about a few of their mind control methods, what they have, not the modern day music and everything, man. That's for simple sheeple. They can control the simple sheeple simply. But going back to, say, Mozart, you ever wonder where you get that word mesmerism? Interesting. We'll talk about these things this morning, guys, and a few others. But, of course, we always, wherever I'm broadcasting, man, I always like to throw in a little Bill Cooper clip here and there. Maybe some independent music that has a good message with it. So, without further ado, how about some Coop, man? And he makes a lot of sense with this. We shall return here in just a few minutes on Waking Up the Masses Radio.
If you want to find out how quickly society can turn against one, and I'm talking seriously here, stand up and tell the truth about just anything that you want to stand up and tell the truth about. It scares the living daylights out of everyone. And so the first thing that happens is you find out who your friends are and who your friends are not, because there's a great weeding out there. And it's not anything that you do on your part or that I've done on my part. They just disappear. And you find very quickly that people are afraid to be around you because they can see the government being upset about what you're talking about, and they can see repercussions coming, and of course they have happened and will continue to happen. And ultimately, I really believe that there will be some kind of a terminal point where they decide that they're not just not going to put up with this pest anymore, and that's going to be the end of me. We have been literally financially in the ditch. We have found it impossible to get any kind of a normal job with anyone who knows anything about what I do. You can't go to church, you can't go to cocktail parties because everybody else is sitting around talking about the weather or, oh, what school did you go to? And when you have done the research and arrived at some of the answers that I know to be true now, those people become like kindergarten children. They're not in the real world, and I can't engage in that kind of a conversation. So you really find yourself in another world that has nothing to do with all of the rest of the people who are running around engaged in their activities that they think are so important to them. And to them, they really are. But to me, they've lost the reality of what really is important, and they're about to lose their freedom to even discover those things at this point.
May I ask you a last question, and that is, how would you like to be seen or remembered in future years when people look back and you think about the thrust of your work? What is it that you would like to be best remembered for?
I think I would like to be remembered like Paul Revere was remembered. At a time when it was needed and nobody else would do it, I got on my horse and rode through the night and said, the British are coming. That's all. I'm not looking for any fame or any fortune. You certainly don't get rich doing what I'm doing. And infamous is probably the real word that describes what happens to you as far as public recognition in a world where political correctness is the theme of the day. You just don't do what I'm doing. So if anybody wants to remember me, I would certainly be pleased if they just remembered I did what was the responsible and the right thing to do at a time when nobody else had the guts to do it.
You're an enemy combatant of the United States of the New Globe. I will not read you your rights. You don't have any rights. You will be detained indefinitely. Say goodbye.
And welcome back to Waking Up the Masses Radio here on WakingUpTheMasses.com. Check out the Infidel, man, GVL, the Infidel, good music. I'll play that clip there. That's the beginning of his song. Turbulent Rhymes, actually. Excuse me, Greg, sorry about that. Turbulent Rhymes. Individual does excellent music, and he's always putting out excellent music. I give these individuals a plug, man. I give them a plug because they deserve it. Because there's so many individuals out there that in the music industry that just sell their soul, man. They simply just sell their soul, and I see a lot of these guys. They know with the music they are doing, they're not going to make it big. They're not going to make it into some big arena or anything of music, but they know they're putting out a message. And most individuals I carry have some talent. But back to who or what are the Illuminati, these Illuminists. A little history. We can go back. We can start from the beginning, from the modern day and go back, but I prefer to go back. And we're not going back to ancient times, but we'll go back a few hundred years, over 1,000 years. We go back to the Egyptian abode of learning, the abode of learning in Cairo, where you had what you call your Ismailis, and this doctrine that they had was not Islam. Many individuals say, well, they're Islamic. No, they're not. It is not Islam, what they brought about. It was Illuminism. And it wasn't theirs. They did not create it. They just created certain, shall we say, rites, rituals, and degrees within this society. One individual that was there, I'm not going to go into a big, long history. You can look these things up. One individual was there, Hassan Sabah. And this individual went on to create a group called the Assassins. Now, the Assassins, once again, a secret society, use mind control. This is where you get the idea of getting the virgins. It wasn't from Islam. It wasn't from them about killing yourself and everything. It was from the ancient assassins. The ancient assassins existed during the Crusade times. These individuals came about in Persia. Look up certain things as the Old Man of the Mountain, Hassan Sabah, and you'll get a little history on this. But this is also, you ever heard, remember, the little stories that were told about Aladdin and the 1,000 Arabian Nights? No, it was more like, because there was a leader of the assassins at one time called Aladdin, and it was more like, and he was the leader of tens of thousands of assassins. If I'm not mistaken, if you go back and you look at the meaning, and I think it's in ancient Arabic, in the assassin, the name assassin, it does not come from hashish. That's the thing we are told. See, once again, we get here to the idea of the esoteric and the exoteric. So the exoteric meaning, they're going to say, oh, they smoked hash and this and that before they did this. They used a variety of drugs, man, in their initiations to mess with their initiate's mind. But assassin goes back to an ancient word that means protectors of the order. Well, what order was that? What order were they protecting? The Illuminist. Oh, the Illuminati started in the 1700s with Weishaupt. Really? So let's continue. in the days of the assassins, it was almost like a live wrestling thing going on, man. WWF or WWE, whatever you guys watch these days, with the Templar Knights. Sometimes they even helped each other out. Sometimes they made it seem as if they were at each other's throats. But they passed their doctrines, their Illuminism, on to the Templar Knights. Okay, now do some research on the Templar Knights. These guys constantly keep resurfacing. Oh, of course, many individuals go, well, the Templar Knights were stamped out in 1307 and on October the 13th. Friday the 13th. Why do you think Friday? See, the way we are led along, man. Why do you think Friday the 13th? Friday the 13th was an unlucky day for the Templar Knights. That's when it was an unlucky day. But let's go forward. And we'll leave the Templars as they were. But yeah, these guys kept spreading. What they all didn't get. They all were not. They were not all burned at the stake or killed and during the persecution of the Templars. They also remember, these guys were a military force. They had ships. Where do you think some of your pirates come from? Why do you think they had the skull and bones as a flag? Why do you think the skull and bones is on most Templar Knights' graves if you go to Europe and a lot of southern jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite Freemasons here in America on their graves? Go to South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. But let's continue. I'm trying to give you, like I said, a simple overview looking at this. So the assassins, their doctrine also, several hundred years later, in I believe the 1500s, was in a different way. Not like the assassins. They were quite violent and shall we say, well, there was some imam who used to rave. I mean, this is during the days of the assassins. There was some imam that raved against the assassins, and one day he just shut up. And he was asked why. Why had he learned to accept them? He said, because their arguments are so pointed and exact. I believe that's the exact quote, also referring to their knives and their means of assassination. But we move forward. We go a few hundred years, and you got the Roshanaya, the Illumined ones. Roshanaya of Afghanistan, the Illumined ones. Anzar Bayezid, Bayezid Anzar, I think is this guy's name. I've got. Why I sit here and guess? I've got all. I got books galore here that I've done research from. Let's see. Bayezid Ansari. Bayezid Ansari. Now, more than likely, Mr. Bayezid Ansari, the one that created in the 1500s in Afghanistan the Illumined ones, more than likely he was continuing not so much their military doctrine, but their, shall we say, quote-unquote spiritual doctrine of the assassins. At one time. Ansari, this comes from, just to give you a little information, shall we say, history on the name Ansari. Their family claimed descent from the Ansar, who were the helpers who assisted Muhammad from his flight from Mecca. So that's where they get their name. And let's see, what else he said, as a reward for this service, he stated his ancestors, this is Bayezid Ansari, he stated that his ancestors had been granted initiation into the mysteries of the Ishmaelite religion. So this here goes back to the ancient abode of Cairo and also connects with the assassins. And they claim the Ishmaelite religion, the secret inner training, which dated from Abraham's rebuilding of the temple at Mecca, the mystical Haram. So, they They had, it's very interesting just to look at their degrees. The Rosh Hashanah, remember this is way before the, quite a few years before the Bavarian Illuminati, and we can look at we can look at their degrees. You know, if you look at the degrees of the Illuminati, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, within those degrees, they count the Blue Lodge. They count the Blue Lodge. I mean, Adam Weishaupt said if it hadn't been for Freemasonry being around, then they would have put their ideas into a reading union, which came about after Weishaupt. But they did use Freemasonry. But they did not eliminate the first 3 degrees. From those first 3 degrees, they chose their those to come into the Illuminati. Now, just to give you an example of the degrees, the Rosh Hashanah and the Illuminati, they had the seeker, the disciple, and the devotee on the Rosh Hashanah side. They had the apprentice, the fellercraft, and the master mason. Even to this day, in the Blue Lodge, you playpen Blue Lodge Masons know about that. We go back to the Rosh Hashanah, you have the enlightened one. This is the 4th degree. You go to the Illuminati, you have the Illuminatus Major. Then you have the master degree on the Rosh Hashanah, which is mirrored on the well, that's Illuminati anyway. Illuminati means enlightened ones. Rosh Hashanah means enlightened ones. So you have the master at the 5th degree of the Rosh Hashanah, and at the 5th degree of the Illuminati, the Illuminatus Dirigens. Then you have, in the last 3 degrees, to mirror these, you have the Rosh Hashanah, the commander. On the Illuminati, you have the prince, the priest in the Rosh Hashanah, and the priest in the Illuminati, and the king, and the Rosh Hashanah, and the king, or Rex, in the Illuminati. Well, it's sort of stupid. I keep saying the Rosh Hashanah, Illuminati, and the word means the same. The word means the same. Now, if we go back to the Rosh Hashanah, man, we find that, like I said, they carried on, man, they carried on, but 40 years after, because they eventually became more of a, their military sort of faded, and they were only left sort of with the spiritual thing. So, but 40 years after their last religious military leader died, there was a society that popped up in Germany, formed by Adam Weishaupt. But we can go back before that. You trace the steps, man. Trace the steps. They just didn't pop up there. It wasn't just the Jesuits, but it was interesting how the Jesuits were used, how they were formed to, hey, we talked about this earlier in the show. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And I usually try to block those voice clearings out of the microphone. But if we go back to Max Toth, this writer who wrote about the Great Pyramids of Egypt, when he said the knowledge of the ancient mysteries was never revealed to the layman except through the media of symbols. Symbolism fulfilled both the need to conceal sacred truths and from the uninitiated and to offer language for those qualified to understand it. And once again, Manly P. Hall, it is for the adepts to understand the meaning of these things, meaning of symbols. So within these groups, things were concealed. Albert Pike, can't find his quote here right now, but Albert Pike said I think it was something like the outer portico of the masonry of these secret societies is the blue degrees. We need to, like he said, these are not his exact words, but he said we need to keep these guys ignorant, keep them stupid, never reveal to them what the hell's going on. That's why you got Blue Lodge Masons, man. They'll swear all day long, oh no, there's no Illuminati. It's like, guys, I understand you like your masonry, but understand it's not the same masonry as a few hundred years ago, okay? I don't have any problem with, my problem is not with Freemasons. My problem is with those that have gone into these groups. Am I a Freemason? Would I ever be? Hell no. I don't agree with their beliefs. But is this what we do? We start stamping out anyone that we don't agree with their beliefs I want you to understand their beliefs. I wish I had a class, man, where I could just tie up a bunch of Blue Lodge Masons in front of me so they couldn't leave, and they wouldn't press charges, to literally illuminate you about what, the path you have gone down. Just for you Masons out there, and you people, not look at the difference between ancients and moderns. Ancients and moderns, and you'll find in the late 1700s, early 1800s, how there was a big struggle in the lodges between these two big ideas. So check those out. Excuse me. I don't know if you heard that burp. Good breakfast this morning, so I try to bleep those out too. But let's go back to some of these groups, man. There was an individual that, by the name of Ignatius Loyola. Ignatius Loyola. And he had a group in the 1600s. And, well, you can go, he was condemned. He and his group were condemned in an edict of the Grand Inquisition in 1623. And they called themselves the Illuminated Ones, the Illuminati, the Alumbrados of Spain. And they caused havoc, they caused chaos under Loyola. It's very interesting, man. Ignatius Loyola, he was arrested. He got a meeting with the Pope somehow. And next thing you know, he's got an order. The Jesuits, in which to conceal. Understand, it's not the Jesuits. Just like people try to blame the Jews. We'll talk about that in a little bit. To conceal Illuminism. You also had the illuminated French Grenades, or Grenade, who primed France for Illuminism that would later be prompt over 100 years later by Adam Weishaupt. Understand, these guys have a multi-generational view of what they are doing. You want to stop them in a generation. They've been at it for hundreds, thousands. Who knows, man? They do. You want to know history? They got your history. They're the ones that rewrote the history. They got the history. And so we move forward. We move forward to Adam Weishaupt. Adam Weishaupt. And why I say, Adam Weishaupt is very important. Why do I say this? Because you look at the methods he used, and you can see the methods, not really that he used, but his ideas. People have to understand Weishaupt was more of an idea man than an action man. But his ideas were put into motion by these illuminists that surrounded him. Weishaupt University. Hey, Ingolstadt, a Jesuit university? He was a Jesuit, so it's got to be the Jesuits. No. Within the Jesuits, there were still Illuminists. There were those that, because it was concealed in there were those that kept it going on. As well as there were other Illuminists and other groups, man, such as the Priory of Sion. Many different groups. It's not like, still in certain groups in Asia. All around the world. It's not like you just got an Illuminati, illumined ones, in one place. These Illuminists are, but let's just get back to this. Their ideas and how they act. Weishaupt. A few words of Weishaupt here. And what his idea, what he thought would come about. To give you a little history, I'm going to read here from the books. You can find this on the net, man. It was written in the late 1700s by a guy that loved his Freemasonry by the name of John Robison. And I'm going to read you a little bit. Weishaupt had been long scheming to establish of an association or order which in time should govern the world. In his first fervor and high expectations, he hinted to several ex-Jesuits the probability of their recovering under a new name, the influence which they formerly possessed, and of being again of a great service to society by directing the education of youth of distinction, now emancipated from all civil and religious prejudices. He prevailed on some of these guys, but basically they all retracted except for a couple. So after this disappointment, Weishaupt became the enemy. Robeson goes on to say that he became the enemy of the Jesuits. Hey guys, we're going to take a very, very quick break. I do apologize, but it's early morning. Coffee and nature call. So we shall return here in a few minutes on Waking Up the Masses.
You always know. We always know which is the right way and which is the bad way. The bad way sometimes feels better, so we may choose that way and justify it by rationalization in order to make ourselves feel better about the bad that we did. Isn't that the way we all do things? Even if we do something wrong and we know we're doing something wrong, don't we attempt to rationalize it in our own mind and to our friends to justify what we're doing? So I believe it's a great fallacy to set out to brand those whom we disagree with as being evil people. The result of their actions we may perceive to be evil. We may perceive it to be bad. But I guarantee you those people don't see it that way. You see, nobody gets up in the morning and sets out to do evil. Nobody consciously does that. I've never met any person in my entire life who said, I'm evil, I'm going to do evil things, I like to do evil things, I want to do evil things. They don't exist, in my knowledge. And when we present ourselves to them in that light, we're good and they're evil. Do you think we have a chance of getting them to listen to us? Not on your life. It's not going to happen. So I think we have to change the way we talk. We have to talk to them in a different manner. I've learned some things, and I think these things need to be passed on to you. And I think you need to start examining yourself, your agenda, your mission. Who are you? What are you about? What do you believe about America? Is it true? Are you helping to divide us more? Or are you helping to bring us together? Do you really understand what this country is all about?
Welcome back to Waking Up the Masses. I do apologize for that. Hey, sometimes you just gotta go, man. So, dog barking outside. I had to make sure what that's about. All right. A few words from Weishaupt. That's what I was about to get into before I was doing the eternal pee-pee dance here in my seat, man. It's like, oh gosh, I want to finish this for him, but okay. Weishaupt, a little history. He was a former Jesuit. He was a Rosicrucian. A group called the Strict, also of a group called the Strict Observance. The Lodge of Theodore. Just throwing things out there for you so you can do your research and get a little bit more grasp of who these individuals were. Now, remember, the next segment we're going to talk about their beliefs. Away from all the history and craziness, man, but their beliefs. Weishaupt said, I declare and I challenge all mankind to contradict my declaration that no man can give away any account of the order of Freemasonry, of its origin, of its history, of its subject, nor any explanation of its mysteries and symbols, which does not leave the mind in total uncertainty on any and all of these points. Every man is entitled, therefore, to give any explanation of the symbols and any system of the doctrines that he can render palatable. Hence have sprung up the variety of systems which for 20 years have divided the order of Masonry. The simple tale of the English, and the 50 degrees of the French, and the Knights of the Baron Hund are equally authentic, and have equally had the support of intelligent and zealous brethren. These systems are, in fact, but one. They have all sprung from the Blue Lodges of 3 degrees. Take these for their standard, and found on these all the improvements by which each system is afterwards suited to a particular object which it keeps in view. There is no man nor system in the world which can show by undoubted succession that it should stand at the head of the order. Our ignorance in this particular frets me. Do but consider our short history of 120 years. Who will show me the Mother Lodge? Those of London have discovered to be self-directed in 1716. Ask for their archives. They tell you that their archives were burnt. They have nothing but wretched sophistications of the Englishman Anderson and the Frenchman Desaguliers. Where is the Lodge of York, which pretends to be the priority with their King Bowden, and the archives that he brought back from the East? These too were also burnt. What is the chapter of the old Aberdeen and its holy clericate? Did we not find it unknown, and the Mason lodges there, the most ignorant of all the ignorant, gaping for instruction from our deputies? Did we not find the same at London? And have not their mysteries been among us, prying into our mysteries, and eager to learn from us the true Freemasonry? Continuing here at Wysop, quote, "It is in vain, therefore, to appeal to judges. They are nowhere to be found. All claims for themselves the scepter of the order. All, indeed, are on an equal footing. They obtain followers not from their authenticity, but from their conduciveness to the end which they proposed, and from the importance of that end. So it is by this scale that we must measure the mad and wicked explanations of the Rosicrucians, the exorcist, and the Kabbalist. They are rejected by all good Masons because incompatible with social happiness. Only such systems as promote this are retained. But alas, they are all sadly deficient, because they leave us under the dominion of political and religious prejudice. And they are insufficient as the sleepy dose of an ordinary sermon. But I have contrived an explanation that has every advantage, is inviting to Christians of every communion, gradually frees them from all religious prejudices, cultivates the social virtues. What social virtues was he talking about? And animates them to be great, a feasible and speedy prospect of universal happiness, in a state of liberty and moral equality, freed from the obstacles which subordination, rank, and riches continually throw in our way. My explanation is accurate and complete. My means are effectual and irresistible. Our secret association works in a way that nothing can withstand, and man shall soon be free and happy. This is the great object held by the association, and the means of attaining it is illumination, enlightening the understanding by the sun of reason, which well dispelled, we're going to talk about that sun of reason, S-U-N, of reason, in the next segment, which well dispelled the clouds of superstition and of prejudice. The proficients in this order are therefore justly named the illuminated. And of all illumination which human reason can give, none is comparable to the discovery of what we are, our nature, our obligations, what happiness are we capable of, and what are the meanings of attaining it. In comparison with this, the most brilliant sciences are but amusements for the idle and luxurious. To fit man by illumination for attractive virtue, to engage him to the strongest motives, to render the attainment of it easy and certain, by finding employment for every talent, and by placing every talent in its proper sphere of action, so that all, without feeling any extraordinary effort, in conjunction with and completion of ordinary business, shall urge forward with united powers the general task. This, indeed, will be our employment suited to noble natures, grand in its views and delightful in its exercise. Can I get a hammer and sickle, man? See, this was their idea. These Illuminists, this was their idea, guys. It was all about, the socialist, humanist, communist idea. All you have to do is look for, and why are the Jews blamed? Let's go forward. I'm not going to spend all this time on why it's not, because, like I said, in the next segment we are going to get into their beliefs, some of the esoteric about these guys, but let's move forward a little bit, and we find certain groups. We find an associate. We find who's said to be an associate. It's really hard to find, except for maybe the lawyer's Wack, a.k.a. Cato. People with association with Weishaupt. But there are rumors, and more rumors. But Cagliostro, the guy that started the Mizraim Lodge, the Rite of Mizraim Freemasonry, he was a Jew. But he was a Jew that left. He was a Jew that left Judaism. Of course, all the conspiracy theorists want to point their fingers at the Jews. They want to talk about the Zionists. Let's talk about real quick who Zionists were and how they were, very quickly. Let me see if I can cram this in here. Who the Zionists were and how they were co-opted. And now people say Zionists, but Zionists were originally. I saw somebody said I saw a video the other day. It said the Zionist Bolshevik Red Army. These are two different things, guys. Zionists were Russian Jews, simply and put, when they started the Zionist movement. Zionists are Russian Orthodox Jews that wanted a homeland. Zionist Orthodox Jews they were Russian Orthodox Jews that wanted a homeland. Okay, now we have the Priory of Sion, the Order of Sion that goes back into. That goes back almost over 1,000 years. Now, of course, they're mixed. They are confused with this. People don't want to do the research. They just see a word and they have to go with that word. The Masonic Disinformation Press loves you. But his name was Joseph Balsamou, and also known as Cagliostro. They always had their neat little names, didn't they? And you can find he's connected with the Rosicrucian Freemasonry, but it's interesting. He found a way to get into Grand Orient Freemasonry. And which the difference, Rosicrucian beliefs in a deity, and Grand Orient Lodge is not they are an atheistic lodge. Ask a Mason sometimes. Say, if I don't believe in a deity, can I still be part of a lodge? And they'll say, well, you can't be part of the Grand Lodge, but you can be part of a Grand Orient Lodge. So, and then just to be funny, give them the old, the true Masonic handshake, not the one with the thumb, the weird one, man. Give him the old 5 points of fellowship, and whisper Mahabon in his ear. See what he does. But Cagliostro, who was also under the orders of one of the Grand Masters of Sion, where you can also find the Illuminist, by the name of Charles Lorraine. Do some research on that. Okay. When Cagliostro joined these Illumined ones, he had two goals in mind. Turn Freemasons. When he finally did join the Illuminati, turned Freemasons into insurrectionists. Say through drug addiction, prostitution, witchcraft, so forth and so on. Cagliostro was considered to be a magician. Sorry, had to grab some water there. And let's move forward. He was to, and this happened. He actually did turn the lodges towards places of drug addiction, prostitution. Look up the Tutubon lodges. The Tutubon lodges, they were whorehouses that some of these Illuminists actually put their daughters and wives to work in. And people go, well, the Rothschilds started the Tutubon lodge. No, that was one that they used to trick Illuminists during the the war when Napoleon was fighting, where they sort of influenced it with trying to remember the name of the war, man, and which Napoleon it was. But yes, they knew that there were illuminated lodges in France, and they set up one by the same name, this Tutubon Lodge, like I said, which were nothing more than whorehouses. And They were able to find out who Illuminists were. It's like, you came in the door. I know it looks different. But let's continue. Oh, one more thing. I was going back to the Zionists. That's what Zionists were. Now, Zionism was co-opted through by British Freemasonry through the Rothschilds. Okay, and that could be another reason that a lot of you want to point your finger and say, "Oh, the Zionist," without understanding truly who you're pointing the finger at. But let's continue. Cagliostro, he was also using this by joining the lodges, joining these Illuminati lodges. What his goal was to, shall we say, unite this Rosicrucian Freemasonry and then this Templar Freemasonry on the continent of Europe. And and then later, what happened? You see, remember, these guys are generational. You find in the late 1800s, you find Mr. Albert Pike, the universal leader of Freemasonry, how he introduced his Luciferian doctrine, which is nothing more than the lost word of Freemasonry. What the even though you think it's the true meaning is a penis, what you see in obelisk and what it means. So you got Cagliostro, got the Jews blamed. Music. A few more things. I'm trying to cram as much in here before I get into their esoteric beliefs. Music. You find that there were, you got Mozart, who was an Illuminist. You've got an individual that was trained by him by the name of Antoine Mesmer. Mesmerism. This guy experimented with sounds, musical sounds, sometimes water in a glass, rubbing his finger on it. Where did that come from? So he experimented with sounds, and he had a big following, and these people would sit around, and he would experiment on them, seeing what it caused in their mind. Music that we have in our day and time, with all the sounds, all the pre-programmed BS, simply works on the ideas that these Illuminists learned. And they throw their symbols in there. And do you think these guys just, Rihanna's part of the Illuminati, Jay-Z's part? They are not. Let me tell you, the Illuminati are a white boys only club. Sorry to tell you. And it's a special kind of white boy. It's not the normal white boy, but that's who the Illuminati are. When you say Barack Obama's part of the Illuminati, let me tell you, anybody you see in front of you on the TV screen, blah, 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 they are not. You would be better suited to look for people in the media. In the media, because that is what sprung from their German reading groups. The idea of how to control the media, to control someone's writing. So with that said, I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead. We're going to hit our next break. Spin up some music for you for a few minutes. Some Gemini. But when we get back, we're going to go, for the last segment, we're going to talk about these Illuminists, what their beliefs are, and how that you can even look in the Bible, man. This is not a religious show, remember, but how you can even look in the Bible, going past the exoteric and looking at the esoteric and see them talk about the illumined ones, these Illuminati. So hang in there. I have not decided what I'm going to spin up for you, so let's see what's on the, or what we got's on the menu. Maybe I don't want to play anything. No. Hey, like I said, Gemini, and we shall return.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th. Malicious lies that attempt to shift the blame away from the terrorists themselves, away from the guilty.
People are always asking me, yo, Gemini, what's your angle? Are you a devil or an angel? And I say both, as I continue to blame the Knights Templar and the Hospitallers, the real reason New York lost their towers. Don't sit back or hesitate to react to the impact. Many taking a nap. In fact, they would fake an attack to make way for the Patriot Act. Some say, hey, it ain't safe to say that, but it's the same game. Different name on the map as they place blame, and they aim at Iraq. It's a damn shame, cause they never claimed the hijack. Following the fiddle, one would have found Nero, the town hero, responsible for ground zero. Objects in the mirror, close and they appear so clear. Your ear to hear the sound of fear grow. Beware the eagle, the dragon, and the ego, and footage that they show that we are forced to see slow. Persecuted and undisputed because of what we know. The strengths that control these kings come from below. Observe the nerve of this dark heart government, thinking they can avoid a spark with another myth. Walk right up, take the ark of the covenant. The cards have been pulled by the shark and I'm loving it. Look hard and you will find 7 heads of the beast behind 9/11, wrapped in fine linen. Even John Lennon couldn't imagine this modern day Armageddon. We've been ambushed, pushed to the edge, persecuted cause we disputed to know the ledge. Pledge allegiance, not even if the world stops turning. Never trust a bush unless it's burning. We've all been ambushed, pushed to the edge, persecuted cause we disputed to know the ledge. Pledge allegiance, not even if the world stops turning. Never trust a bush unless it's burning.
There is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, I think, only once, and hasn't been used since, and that is a new world order.
From junior to senior to Grandpa Prescott to the Nazi mouse house in the center at Epcot. Let's not forget the messed up mascot. Skull and bones digging up Geronimo's rest spot. These fallen thrones are not alone in their obsessed plot. These garden gnomes are part of Rome, so I take my best shot. With the heart of stones, they are prone to never get caught. There's a big cold phone details and emails on your desktop. Many be growing up gaudy like Mayor Giuliani, practicing karate with the Illuminati. Atanto Kimosabi, who's quick to kill somebody for the love of mud, honey, or a little blood money. I don't find these thugs funny, they sell drugs to Bugs Bunny. Not that it's any of my business that I'm his a Daffy Duck's buddy. Just hide it when they laugh at me and what my dreadlocks study. When they kill tiny children, left many building blocks bloody. The square and the compass and the almanac. Are you aware that they're amongst us and it's all an act? Some Yeza and Azazel have now come crawling back. Drove to Bohemian Grove dressed all in black. A serpent king worshipping a stone owl. The dragon Ronald Reagan ain't Colin Powell. Flipping scripture like Vanna White, showing a vowel. We have to plan to fight and never throw in the towel. We've been ambushed, pushed to the edge, persecuted cause we disputed to know the ledge. Pledge allegiance, not even if the world stops turning. Never trust a bush unless it's burning. We've all been ambushed, pushed to the edge, persecuted cause we disputed to know the ledge. Pledge allegiance, not even if the world stops turning. Never trust a bush unless it's burning.
Remember this, your government funded and trained Al-Qaeda.
Growing, and it'll keep growing and growing and growing until it just absolutely collapses and a new order will come in and a despotism will rule. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. The whole structure is going to collapse into total and absolute chaos. And a lot of these so-called patriots are going to turn into petty little warlords, are going to rape, loot, and steal. And so are other people who are not even patriots. Some patriots will try to preserve law and order and will be killed in the process. What's going to happen is this whole structure is going to fall apart into utter and total chaos. The ruling elite are going to go underground and wait it out while everybody up here just kills each other off. Then they'll come back up and establish a despotism. And you will be ruled like the lodge rules its members. You'll be pledged to absolute obedience, and you'd better hope that the despot is a benevolent. You will destroy yourselves, and you will get exactly what you deserve, and those of us who don't deserve it, and who want to live by the truth, will do the best we can for each other. There really isn't anything to do for the rest of you. You go from one dead end to another. You don't like to be in the middle of the river so that you will get to any kind of a destination. You keep getting caught up in these little eddies that spin around and around and around. You are the flotsam and the jetsam of the battle of life. And you are tossed willy-nilly here and there by the tides and the waves and the oceans and the storms. Those of us who fight the battles are the ones who get somewhere. The rest of you, as in all of history, always fall mercy to the victor of the battle. And it never really matters who it is, for whoever it is, as long as you are the sheep, it doesn't matter who they are or what they do, they will always be the wolves. And all of this realization and this pain, I still wish you well, but knowing that it is your nature that you will not do well. You did not make this nation. Great men sticking their lives in the balance made it for you. You have thrown it away.
And welcome back to the broadcast. WakingUpTheMasses.com. WakingUpTheMasses.com. One of the last posts that I have there, you should go to the website, and if you want to get an idea, just an idea of Freemasonry, some of the lower degrees, go to WakingUpTheMasses.com. You'll see it's William Morgan, Captain William Morgan, and his expose of Freemasonry. Old PDF, so check that out. So we're back. A Freemason by the name of Oswald Worth, in his writings, he was a 33rd degree Freemason. Now remember, my friends, that's not the highest. Everybody goes, the 33rd degree. That's interesting. I'll explain that one to you here also in a little bit. But you look at Mizram Freemasonry, and which was absorbed by the Rite of Memphis Freemasonry. And you'll find 96 degrees, I believe, 94 or 96. Can't remember exactly. Order out of Chaos, which you see on the 33rd degree jewel. It's interesting. Excuse me. It's interesting in Mizram Freemasonry where you find their 28th degree. Well, no, excuse me. In the Scottish Rite, the 28th degree is given the name, where is it? The Knight of the Sun. And, or Chaos Disentangled. Or Cush Acquitted. Now, I'm going to explain this to you. Order out of Chaos is order out of Cush. Order out of Chaos is order out of Cush. Who was Cush? The father of Nimrod. But let's read this guy. He said, the object of the ancient mysteries was to make men like unto gods. The program of initiation has not changed even in our day. The modern Mason also becomes more divine, but he realizes that he can only become more divine if he works divinely. That is, by completing the unfulfilled task of creation. Raised above the level of raised above the level of man's animal nature, the builder, by carrying out the divine plan, himself becomes a god, in the ancient sense of the word. That explains why the serpent, inspiring disobedience, insubordination, and revolt, was held accursed by the ancient by the ancient religions, while at the same time he was honored among the initiated, who considered that there could be nothing more sacred than those aspirations which lead us even closer to becoming God, who are seen as rational powers charged with bringing order out of chaos and governing the world. Order out of Cush. Chaos, if you go back to the old Chaldean Magi, their word for Cush, what they would have called Cush would have been chaos. Now, Nimrod was nothing more than, remember, these guys were all about ancestor worship. In the exoteric, there was a lot of ancestor worship going on. Let's break it down, man. Let me break it down for you real quick using the familiar. Osiris, Isis, and Horus. This is the teaching time of the show. Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Now, of course, we can read that Osiris, let's give the Cliff Notes compressed of Osiris. He was a king. He was a god king. Now, remember, probably never a person by the name of Osiris that lived, as far as who they talk about. He put upon himself going around and civilizing the barbaric individuals, teaching them certain things such as agriculture. If you read And you even read about those that opposed Osiris. Oh, teaching them religion and the right way to worship, setting up his temple, so forth and so on. Interesting, he was, little side note, if you read in some of the writings, it said that he was accompanied by a group of individuals, but so he was accompanied by 9 muses, or 9 nymphs. It's interesting that you find that an individual by the name of Benjamin Franklin, was part of the Illuminati. He was a member of an Illuminati lodge in France by the name of the 9 Muses, or 9 Sisters. I guess they didn't want to call them nymphs. Franklin was known for frequenting these Tujaban lodges, drinking it up, prostitutes. He loved the life, man. But let's go back to this. Osiris, before I get off on a tangent on something else. Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Osiris. Now, we agreed. We agreed. We see that in the story of Osiris, he comes back. He's in the banquet held. His brother Typhon locks his butt into a box. They throw him in the Nile. Isis finds him, in this box, so forth, so on. She reanimates him. They do the nasty. From this, Horus is born. And then, next thing you know, Typhon, his brother who locked him up in the box, he comes along, and now Typhon has a symbology too. But Typhon comes along when he's hunting at night and finds him. He's like, oh crap, he's still here. And he literally cuts him into 14 pieces and spreads him throughout the land. Well, Isis finds all but one. And that one was the wiener, the phallic, the penis. And so she erected, with which she replaced with gold, but she erected this in these monuments in honor of him, temples in honor of him. So she was the builder of the temple. So let's get into this. Let's go from the exoteric to the esoteric. Let's talk about Osiris. Now, what do we see? The obelisk. We see the obelisk, the lost member. The obelisk. Which, what is the symbology? Let's keep going down through the exoteric to the esoteric. The obelisk, the sun. People say they worship the sun. He was a sun god. Another exoteric thing. Down to, he is the lost word. The doctrine. The big idea, guys. He is the Luciferian doctrine. Now, Isis, what we would call in our modern day time the Luciferian doctrine. And I just told you what the Luciferian doctrine was. It's that idea through Mr. Oswald Wirth, 33rd degree Freemason. The idea that men can become gods, not that they worship Lucifer. That's more for the exoteric dummies. So, Isis. If we look at the symbols here, Isis. What is, we'll go to DC here, man. We'll use a few different ones. Isis, the reflecting pool, compared to the obelisk. Isis is if you want to get into and that reflecting pool, what is that? That is supposed to be the vagina. I was giving you a little bit more exoteric here. The moon, which relates to the moon, which reflects the sun. These lodges. These lodges. She's also the lodge. She is also the church. And within those, whose church, you have to ask, and within those lodges, you have these are the secret societies. Osiris is the Luciferian doctrine, the lost word. Isis is the secret societies, the lodge. Horus, the morning star. The morning star, the rising sun. But more than, the offspring of Isis and Osiris. The morning star, the rising sun. But going towards the esoteric. He is the combined initiates. The combined initiates that have achieved the top level, the Illuminati, the illumined ones. Illumined ones, ancient mystery schools, man. They talk about. Let me show you here where they talk about this in the Bible. What is it that I forgot? Man, I forgot to do my homework on this part and get the exact quote and what Bible book it's from. But what book in the Bible? Where they talk to Lucifer and they call him the morning star. The morning star. What is the morning star? Is that the rising sun? Horus, the initiates, the Illuminati, oh, how you have fallen down to the earth and made it tremble, the initiates, the Illuminati. You want to make it into some diabolical being, but it's not. Understand the Bible, man. The Bible is symbolic all over. Not completely. There is history, but how can you look at Revelation and say this is symbolic, but not look at Isaiah? I mean, I forgot what book that was. I'm sorry. Really am sorry, but now the individuals that opposed Osiris. Oh, but going back to Horus one more time, the morning star, Horus. When that's the initiates, each one of these guys, a Horai, an Illuminati, an all-seeing bird. Each initiate is the illuminated hawk, or a ray of light. The Great Seal of the dollar bill, man. Benjamin Franklin. I mean, there's all of these things. The Great Seal and the dollar bill, all of these things. You can see where Franklin brought this up. That was Weissaup's drawing. All in tandem. That same eye, the eye of Horus that you see on the capstone. 14 pieces, 13 steps, one disconnected piece. Are you starting to understand? But you got to do more research. You have to go. If I was to sit here all day and go deep, deep, deep into this, I would never have any time for anything else. But, so, what do we have here? Osiris is the lost doctrine, the Luciferian doctrine. Isis is the secret societies, and Horus is the initiates, the illumined ones. These illumined ones, the ancient mystery schools, man, these are the individuals they wanted to produce that would believe that they were gods. If you go back in the pre-Diluvian time, pre-flood times, man, you will find, a lot of archaeologists and stuff, they have found that there was no worship of a god. People weren't worshiping a god, they were worshiping ancestors. They were worshiping, it was more like sex, drug, and rock and roll. I used, in an earlier incarnation of my show a few years ago, I had Mr. Patrick Heron on, and he talks about this time, and even though I do disagree on the giant thing, he talks about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and this is basically what was going on, and this is their big society. Keep you stupid, keep you where you will abort your children, or you won't even have children. You'll just run around in a big, well, what did Weishaupt say? Make basically moral equalness. Moral equalness. So you can go out, you can screw a dog, screw a whore, blah, 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 whatever you want to, but your morals are equal to the person that actually practices things. Now, the individuals that suppressed the suppression of the suppression of Osiris by his brother Typhon, or say Nimrod by Seth, you find that these individuals, they talk about them and they classify Typhon and Seth as being these controlling people, that they suppress happiness, they suppress morals, they don't want a free society, so forth and so on. What they do, and they embody them as being the true religions, the true churches. But they're bad, as Weishaupt said. We got to get rid of this, man. Weishaupt said, we got to get rid of this so everybody can be happy. Get rid of the controllers. Get rid of the religious authority. I mean, and yes, they were bad. Those individuals were also bad. But hey, I tell you what, guys. One more break, and we'll come back and finish this thing up. And you are listening to Waking Up the Masses.
Rock it, Joe Babylon.
furnish your security. Trust us. We will be good to you. We will never become despotic or tyrannical. We will give us your power.
Have your bouncing like a robo while exposing ill Freemasons. Have your bouncing like a robo while exposing ill Freemasons.
Gemini, Judas the twin,
Have your bouncing like a robo while exposing ill Freemasons.
has come to testify that we're all students within.
While exposing ill Freemasons.
I study scrolls from the library of Nag Hammadi, discovered in 1945 by Muhammad Ali. Also books that were unearthed within the Qumran community, as many fight to shield the truth and try to keep it from you and me. Ancient secrets that were first toppled on an Egyptian plateau that would one day find themselves underneath Renla's chateau. Knowledge once buried, info carried from Solomon's temple. Stories vary, some of them scary, but all of them simple. Look into my eyes, there's no surprise that I've got a slight temper towards the lies in disguise of the modern day Knights Templar. Realize from the size of the recognized architecture that the wise have hidden prize that can hypnotize and spark a lecture. I don't mean to preach, but to teach that each founding father, dream and prophecy and demonocracy should have been drowned in water. From King George VI passing his town and crown to his daughter, as many climate degrees drop her to their knees, bowing down to her garter. How many times, how many rhymes, how many crimes need to be committed till you'll admit that they were behind it? Don't be blinded or narrow-minded. Become one of the Pharaoh kind kids, posing Freemasons from America's commander-in-chief, the Nova Scotia's Alexander Keith, like Captain Morgan, that panhandler and thief. So what's more important than a Mayan calendar belief? Exposing Freemasons from America's commander-in-chief, the Nova Scotia's Alexander Keith, like Captain Morgan, that panhandler and thief. So what's more important than a Mayan calendar belief? You better make sure that the laces of your Pumas are tight, cause if the rumors are right, the Loomis and Knight have got the baby boomer consumers in fright with their continuous bright luminous light. You better make sure that the laces of your Pumas are tight, cause if the rumors are right, the Loomis and Knight have got the baby boomer consumers in fright with their continuous bright luminous light. I get an actual pleasure exposing Disney's national treasure. Somebody pinch me. Everybody's trying to decipher the code of Da Vinci. Sacred geometry, math that you measure. Hard technology is some laugh at the weather. From their chapters and their lodges, men act as if they know who God is. They're the hidden hand, take a forbidden land, never given the damn to sit or stand, they spit on man. How many times, how many rhymes, how many crimes need to be committed till you'll admit that they were behind it? Don't be blinded or narrow-minded. Become one of the Pharaoh kind kids, posing Freemasons from America's commander-in-chief, the Nova Scotia's Alexander Keith, like Captain Morgan, that panhandler and thief. So what's more important than a Mayan calendar belief? Exposing Freemasons from America's commander-in-chief, the Nova Scotia's Alexander Keith, like Captain Morgan, that panhandler and thief. So what's more important than a Mayan calendar belief? They brought Cleopatra's needles to the real axis of evil. Rebuilt St. Paul's Cathedral to become Jerusalem's equal. In times of medieval, great minds that are deceitful, grapevines that are more lethal than hate crimes upon the people. Like the often forgotten cards of Akhenaten's guards, there's no stopping these topics that are dropping like shotgun shards, directed towards the so-called prophets of Scotland Yard, who taught me the arts by unlocking charts and filling their shopping carts. Come on, we've all seen the surface disguised as greedy merchants, erecting the obelisk penis perfect so they could feed us worship, never really releasing their grip, as Miss Liberty's allowed to introduce her whip and reinterpret his story into pure shit. There is a list of men from Francis Bacon to Christopher Wren, and since I can no longer put my fist into them, I choose to get pissed with a pen. Now tell me, have y'all been listening? How many times, how many rhymes, how many crimes need to be committed till you'll admit that they were behind it? Don't be blinded or narrow-minded. Become one of the Pharaoh kind kids, posing Freemasons from America's commander-in-chief, the Nova Scotia's Alexander Keith, like Captain Morgan, that panhandler and thief. So what's more important than a Mayan calendar belief? Exposing Freemasons from America's commander-in-chief, the Nova Scotia's Alexander Keith, like Captain Morgan, that panhandler and thief. So what's more important than a Mayan calendar belief?
You're bouncing like a robo while exposing ill Freemasons.
Exposing Freemasons from America's commander-in-chief, the Nova Scotia's Alexander Keith, like Captain Morgan, that panhandler and thief. So what's more important than a Mayan calendar belief?
And welcome back. I do apologize. I have quite a few dogs around here. So, it was their time to go. They were doing the pee-pee dance. But welcome back to Let's Finish This Thing Up here today. And don't forget, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. You can check it out. Getting into secret societies. Some days we'll get into the news. I'll show you how. I'll give you my take on the news, what you see going on from the vantage point of someone that has done years of research on these things. I'm not I'm not wanting to put a feather in my cap and call myself a chicken. No. It is simply the fact that you got to do deep research, guys, and it's not that hard. there are anyone that's listening or that listens to the archive, you can contact me. Contact at wakingupthemasses.com. I'll point you in the right direction. Might even hook you up with a few books over the internet, man, to give you that you won't find on the internet, to give you a push in the right direction. But let's sum this up. We have to understand and sort of talk, in conclusion, talk about why so many people are misled. But as we said, it's the Father, the Son, the Father, the Mother, and the child. In different societies, man, I just talk about, we can talk about Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz, or we can talk about Osiris, Isis, and Horus. But you can find it all around the world. You can find this constantly all around the world in different names. They give them different names, maybe different identities, make them more conducive to the culture, but it also ends up still being the same thing. The idea of the big idea, the Luciferian doctrine, the secret societies, which the Luciferian doctrine, the male, the female being the secret society, Horus, or the child, Tammuz, the child, being the combined initiates, the Illuminati, these combined group of these illuminated ones. It's simple. It's simple. It's not about worshiping that Osiris is Lucifer or Satan, which I'll be real honest with you, I don't have a belief in a devil. That's who made that up? Somebody that was looking at the exoteric. Someone that was looking at the exoteric rather than the esoteric. But how can you convince people to look deeply into these things? How can you convince them past what they think is the truth, especially going back once again, man, to these truthers? How can you convince them? Hey, man, this is not exactly what you think. This is not that big idea that you thought about. This is something different. Get off your hate machine. See, that's what I find in the truther community so much. Maybe some of them don't outwardly express it, but within what they write, I find hate. And I find that they're nothing more than a little clique, just like the media. Probably pisses some off, but hey, the truth is the truth, man. And that's some truth for you, truther. Oh, but they'll run together. They'll run together. Oh, come listen to me. Come listen to me. I'm going to talk about the same thing you did. Which brings me to the mind control aspect of these lodges. Just in ending here. Excuse me. Even in the inner workings, man, of these secret societies, they have woven in it the idea of mind control over the initiate. Whether it be the Blue Lodges, where you're told something new, hey, that wasn't right in the first one, we got something new for you in this degree. Whether it be the idea of the Illuminati, the cult of the ancient assassins, even some of your lamas, that and the way that they are worshipped in Tibet and the surrounding areas, through music, through our media, all of these forms of mind control and more. And my friends, their techniques have been perfected via research, secret societies, secret projects, constant experimentation on the public. We are wired, look at it. Look what we have nowadays. We're wired into handheld devices, desktops, 24 hours of constant dumbing down by design. And we have an education system, or shall we say slave production. You decide. So tomorrow we're going to get into the idea of, hey, how have they learned a lot of these ideas, these secret societies? Why were there continually more degrees added? What knowledge was imparted to them at these degrees? Why do different ones have degrees? And really, we're going to center in, there was a group It was a lodge that was established in the 1800s over in England. It was called the Quattuor Coronati Lodge of Masonic Research. Very interesting. A lot of interesting facts on who set this up, what their idea was, connecting them with other individuals around the world that were part of this big secret society network, and what they learned. And it would be fascinating to see by what they learned, what we have going on right now, how some of their latter individuals that were influenced by this through your Tavistock Project and your Royal Society branched out in order to manipulate the mind of man so they could be the perfect God leader and you could be the perfect slave. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on WakingUpTheMasses.com.
From their zombie-like slumber to see the truth, for the truth will make us free. You are listening to Waking Up the Masses Radio.